we were talking about the beauty that we see in nature, the love, the altruism, the empathy.
Danes dopoldan smo govorili o lepoti, ki jo vidimo v naravi, o ljubezni, o altruizmu, o empatiji.
But we also saw that there was some other things there in nature that didn't look so good.
Prav tako smo tudi videli, da so v naravi druge stvari, ki niso tako dobre.
So this is what we are going to go a little more in depth.
In zato bomo temu zdaj posvetili več pozornosti.
So the title of our last topic is Does nature really tell us that God is good?
In tema našega zadnjega predavanja, ali nam narava res govori, da je Bog dober.
Then going more into specifics.
In če gremo bolj v podrobnosti.
What about the nasty 3 P's?
Kaj o teh hudobnih 3 P-jih v angleščini?
The pathogens,
Patogeni,
the parasites,
paraziti
and the predators.
In predatorji oziroma plenilci. Pri nas so tudi 3 P-ji.
So I want to start with a Bible verse that I really like and I agree fully.
Začeli bomo s svetopisemskim besedilom, ki ga imam zelo rada in s katerim se seveda popolnoma strinjam.
It's found in Romans 1:20.
Nahaja se v pismu Rimljanom v 1. poglavju 20. vrstici.
And it tells us that ever since God created the world,
in nam govori o tem, da vse od takrat, ko je Bog ustvaril svet,
his invisible qualities
je možno njegove nevidne kvalitete oziroma lastnosti,
both his eternal power and his divine nature,
tako njegovo večno mogočnost in božanskost,
they have been clearly seen,
jasno videti,
they're perceived in the things that God has made,
in opaziti v stvarih, ki jih je Bog ustvaril.
so there is no excuse.
Zato ni nobenega opravičila.
So according to this verse, we can find God's qualities in nature, looking at nature.
Torej, to besedilo nam pravi, da lahko Božje lastnosti najdemo v naravi.
And we just saw that in our previous lecture.
In to smo videli v našem prejšnjem predavanju.
We can see in the perfection of the little tiny cells and molecules.
Prav tako lahko to vidimo v popolnosti malih, drobnih celic in molekul.
That we have a super smart God.
Da imamo super pametnega Boga.
So God is very intelligent, he knows everything.
Bog je seveda zelo inteligenten, ve vse.
And God is also very powerful to make all of these things.
In Bog je seveda tudi zelo mogočen, da je vse to ustvaril.
And the rest of the universe with all its complexity.
In v preostanku vesolja lahko vidimo to kompleksnost.
But the verse said that we see the power of God in nature.
Besedilo nam je povedalo, da lahko v naravi vidimo Božjo moč.
But also his nature, his essence.
Ampak ravno tako tudi njegovo bit, njegovo bistvo.
And according to the Bible, the essence of God, and we were talking about it this morning.
In po Svetem pismu je bistvo Boga, o čemer smo govorili danes dopoldan.
The nature of God is love.
Božja narava je ljubezen.
So in the main qualities of God we have intelligence, we have power.
Torej, ko govorimo o teh glavnih lastnostih Boga, imamo inteligentnost, moč.
But we also have his goodness.
Ampak ravno tako tudi njegovo dobroto.
But sometimes we find this question mark, at least on the minds of some people.
Ampak včasih najdemo v mislih nekaterih ljudi vprašaj.
Because when they look at nature, they don't see that goodness.
Ker ko pogledajo naravo, ne vidijo dobrote.
This has been a discussion from ancient times.
In to je diskusija, ki poteka vse od starodavnih časov naprej.
That can be summarized with what's called the Epicurean paradox.
In jo lahko povzamemo z epikurejskim paradoksom.
If God knows everything,
če Bog ve vse,
and he has a lot of power,
in če ima vso moč,
and he's good,
in je dober,
then why does evil exist?
zakaj potem obstaja zlo?
Because if God cannot prevent evil,
Če Bog ne more preprečiti zla,
if if he's not intelligent enough or powerful enough to prevent evil,
če ni dovolj pameten ali dovolj močan, da bi preprečil zlo,
then he's not God.
potem on ni Bog.
Or at least he's not the kind of God that we are thinking of.
Ali pa vsaj ni takšen Bog, kakršnega mi poznamo.
But if he can prevent evil,
Ampak če lahko prepreči zlo,
but he doesn't,
pa ga ne,
then he's not good.
potem ni dober.
And many people have thought about this.
Številni ljudje so razmišljali o tem,
Even Charles Darwin,
celo Charles Darwin,
he wrote about this topic.
ki je pisal o tej temi.
And here we have one quote from him.
In tukaj imamo en citat, ki prihaja od njega.
You can read it out.
Zdi se, da je na svetu preveč trpljenja. Ne morem se prepričati, da dober in vsemogočni Bog, da je dober in vsemogočni Bog načrtno ustvaril te parazitske ose z izrecnim namenom, da se njihove ličinke hranijo z živimi telesi metuljev ali pa da se mačke igrajo z mišmi.
So he's asking about these predators
On razmišlja in postavlja vprašanje o teh plenilcih,
the kites eating mice,
mačke in miši, mačke, ki jedo miši,
and about the parasites.
in o parazitih.
And he mentions a specific wasp, but it's a parasite wasp,
In omenja posebno vrsto ose, ki je parazitska,
that lays its eggs inside a live caterpillar.
ki zleže svoje jajčeca znotraj živega metulja.
So when the larvae hatch, they eat the caterpillar alive.
In potem te ličinke pojedo živega metulja.
I have another quote, more recent one,
Imam še en navedek, nekaj novejši,
that has the same ideas behind.
ki ima v sebi iste ideje.
It's from an actor that you probably know,
Prihaja iz ust nekega igralca,
Stephen Fry.
Stephena Freya,
He is an atheist,
ki je ateist,
and he's very anti-religion.
in je zelo proti veri.
And he was interviewed on TV,
In v enem od intervjujev na televiziji
and the interviewer said, if you're wrong,
je spraševal, rekel, če se motite,
and at the end of your life you go to heaven,
in na koncu svojega življenja ljudje odidejo v nebesa,
and if you meet God there, what are you going to say to him?
in tam tudi odidete vi tja in tam srečate Boga, kaj mu boste rekli potem?
I'm going to show you his answer,
Pokazala vam bom njegov odgovor,
and I'm warning you that this is a very hard one.
in opozarjam vas, da je zelo težek odgovor.
I usually put the segment of the video, but it's almost blasphemous.
Običajno dam segment videa tega pogovora, ampak je skoraj da bogokleten.
So we are going just to read it.
Zato bomo samo prebrali del.
Okay, now.
Kostni rak pri otrocih, kaj pa to? Kako si drznete? Kaj bi rekel Bogu? Kaj pa to? Kako si drzneš ustvariti svet, ki je prepoln takšne bede in reči, da to ni tvoja odgovornost. To ni prav. To je popolno zlo. Zakaj bi moral jaz spoštovati domišljavega, da rečemo, kapricastega, zlobnega, neumnega Boga, ki je ustvaril svet poln krivice in bolečine? Če drži, da je svet čudovit, a hkrati so na njem insekti, katerih celoten življenjski cikl je sestavljen iz vrtanja v oči otrok in to od znotraj navzven, dokler jih ne oslepijo. Zakaj si nam to naredil? Lahko bi zlahka ustvaril svet, v katerem ti ne bi obstajali. To je nesprejemljivo.
So as you can see, the arguments have been the same through history.
Kot vidite, so argumenti isti skozi vso zgodovino.
He's mentioning diseases
On omenja bolezni,
and parasites
parazite,
another specific parasite, in this case the human parasite.
Še enega od specifičnih parazitov, ki prebivajo v človeku.
And he's saying it's not fair that God created all of this.
In pravi, ni fair, da je Bog vse to ustvaril.
Because God should have been able to prevent all of this to
Ker
be
Bog
there.
bi moral preprečiti vse to zlo.
And he says all this, let me find it, misery, all this misery that it's not our fault.
In pravi tudi, da vse to trpljenje, ta beda ni naša odgovornost.
So, what would you respond to Charles Darwin or to Stephen Fry if
Kako-
they tell you this?
Kako bi se odzvali na Charlesa Darwina ali Stephena Fryja, ki vam bi rekli nekaj takega?
Do we have an answer for this?
Imamo odgovor za to?
We do.
Imamo
They
odgovor,
have
ja.
not read the Bible,
A ona dva nista brala očitno dobro svetopismo.
and this happens to people who do not believe that what happens in the first chapters of Genesis is real.
In to se ponavadi zgodi, če ljudje ne verjamejo, da to, kar piše v prvih poglavjih prve Mojzesove, je resnično.
If you believe that what is found there in Genesis 1, 2, 3 actually happened,
Če verujete, da to, kar imamo v prvi Mojzesovi, 1, 2 in 3, se je dejansko zgodilo,
then you know that it's not God's fault.
potem veste, da to ni Božja odgovornost.
Because God made everything good, very good.
Ker Bog je vse ustvaril zelo dobro.
There was biological diversity, so many different animals, plants and other organisms.
Bila je velika biološka raznolikost, veliko različnih rastlin, živali.
But there was no predation,
Ni bilo nobenih plenilcev,
and of course no parasites, no pathogens.
tudi ne parazitov in patogenov.
There was a peaceful coexistence
Šlo je za miroljubno sobivanje
among all the organisms.
med vsemi organizmi.
And as we were saying this morning, they were helping each other.
In kot smo danes dopoldne omenili, so ti organizmi pomagali drug drugemu.
So we could say it's not God's fault, it is actually our fault.
In zato lahko rečemo, ni Bog kriv za to, ampak smo krivi mi.
Not our fault as the people in this room,
Ne krivica nas, ki smo tukaj v tem prostoru,
but humanity's fault.
ampak krivica odgovornost človeštva.
Because what we are seeing are the consequences of the choice of Adam and Eve
Ker to, kar vidimo, so posledice izbire Adama in Eve.
when they decided that they didn't like the system that God invented,
In ona dva sta se odločila, da ima ni všeč sistem, ki ga je Bog izumil,
that they knew better,
ampak da ona dva vesta bolje
and that they wanted to live away from God.
in da želita živeti proč od Boga.
And at that exact point in Genesis 3
In na neki točki v prvi Mojzesovi 3
is when all these problems started.
beremo o začetku vseh teh težav.
We see how the survival instinct appeared really fast.
Vidimo, kako se to pojavi v svetopismu zelo hitro.
It wasn't me, it was the woman you gave me.
Torej, ta instinkt prelaganja odgovornosti nisem bil jaz, to je bila žena, ki si mi jo dal.
Not my fault, it was the serpent.
Ne moja krivica, ampak od kače.
And we are warned that animals are going to be aggressive.
In opozorjeni smo, da bodo živali postale agresivne,
Going to attack and bite.
da bodo napadale in grizle,
That plants are also going to be aggressive with thorns and thistles.
da bodo tudi rastline agresivne s trnjem, plevelom,
That physical pain is going to affect humans.
da bo telesna bolečina prizadela ljudi
And finally, that death is going to be a part of nature.
in da bo smrt postala sestavni del narave.
It wasn't before.
Tega ni bilo prej.
Okay, so we have our answer,
Torej, imamo odgovor,
but we still have to try to, from the biological point of view,
ampak še vedno moramo poskušati z biološkega vidika
to answer another question
odgovoriti na drugo vprašanje.
about the 3 P's,
O
pathogens,
treh
parasites and predators.
teh P-jih, patogenih, parazitih in plenilcih.
If God did not create them,
Če jih Bog ni ustvaril,
where did they come from?
Odkot so prišli.
And there are several options for this.
In obstaja več možnosti, odgovorov za to.
And we don't have a definitive answer for this.
Ne potrebujemo ali nimamo dokončnega odgovora.
But I have some ideas that I would like to share with you.
Ampak imam določene zamisli, ki jih želim podeliti z vami.
From the scientific creationist point of view.
Iz znanstvenega kreacionističnega vidika.
So we will talk a little bit about little bit of each of the three groups.
Na kratko bomo spregovorili o vsaki od teh treh skupin.
And we will try to answer how they ended up the way they are now.
In poskušali odgovoriti na vprašanje, kako so končali takšni, kot so zdaj.
Because we already agreed that they were not that way in the beginning.
Ker strinjali smo se, da na začetku niso bili takšni.
So let's start with the pathogens.
Začnimo s patogeni.
We call pathogens the microorganisms that cause diseases to us.
Patogeni so mikroorganizmi, ki povzročajo bolezni.
To us or to animals or plants.
V ljudeh ali živalih ali na rastlinah.
But we're going to concentrate in the microorganisms that cause diseases to humans.
Mi se bomo osredotočili na mikroorganizme, ki povzročajo bolezni pri ljudeh.
And because most of them are bacteria, we are going to focus on bacteria, pathogenic bacteria.
In zato, ker je večina teh mikroorganizmov bakterijskih, se bomo osredotočili na bakterije.
There are many severe diseases, human diseases that are caused by bacteria.
Obstaja več resnih bolezni, ki jih povzročajo bakterije.
These are just some examples.
To je samo nekaj primerov.
Tuberculosis, pneumonia,
Tuberkuloza, pljučnica, tetanus, difterija,
leprosy.
gobavost.
Some of them are lethal,
Nekatere od teh bolezni so smrtonosne,
but none of them is nice.
ampak nobena ni ravno prijetna.
These are just some examples.
To je samo nekaj primerov.
Actually, there are about 400 bacteria that cause diseases to humans.
Obstaja okrog 400 bakterij različnih, ki povzročajo bolezni pri ljudeh.
Why would God create 400 little bugs that are going to cause us so much pain and suffering?
Zakaj bi Bog ustvaril 400 nekih organizmov malih, ki bodo povzročali toliko bolečin?
Actually, they are not that many.
Pravzaprav jih ni toliko.
If we compare them with the total number of species that exist,
Če jih primerjamo z celotnim številom organizmov ali vrst, ki obstaja,
that we don't know exactly, but we can estimate
ne vemo natančnega števila različnih bitij, ki obstajajo.
the number of different bacteria species that are estimated to live on Earth.
Celotno, torej število bakterij, ki obstaja oziroma ocenjujemo, da obstaja na svetu,
Is about 10 million.
je 10 milijonov.
So actually, if we make the proportion,
Če torej izračunamo razmerje,
the amount of bacteria that are harmful to humans is a very, very small proportion of the bacteria that we have out there.
je odstotek bakterij, ki povzročajo bolezni pri ljudeh, zelo nizek v primerjavi s celotnim številom bakterij.
We're talking about 0.0004.
Torej govorimo 0,004%.
It looks like the function of bacteria is not harming humans.
In očitno je videti, da glavna funkcija bakterij ni povzročati škodo ljudem.
What are the rest of the bacteria doing?
Kaj ostale bakterije počnejo?
The 9,999,600.
Torej, ostalih 9.999.000 in tako dalje.
Okay, they are the recyclers of nature.
Te bakterije izvajajo recikliranje v naravi.
The majority of bacteria that we can find like everywhere in the soil, in the water,
Večina bakterij, ki jih lahko najdemo povsod, v zemlji, v vodi recimo,
they are doing chemical transformations.
Izvajajo kemično preobrazbo, transformacijo.
Sometimes they take organic material and they turn it into inorganic material.
Včasih organsko snov spreminjajo v anorgansko
And sometimes they do the opposite.
in včasih obratno.
And these are very important functions.
In to so zelo pomembne funkcije.
We're talking before about photosynthesis,
Govorili smo o fotosintezi
and we said that plants are in charge of photosynthesis,
in rekli smo, da so rastline odgovorne za fotosintezo,
but actually that wasn't fair
ampak to ni bilo čisto pošteno,
because the majority of the organic material that is produced through photosynthesis on Earth
ker večina organskega materiala, ki se proizvede s fotosintezo na Zemlji,
is made by aquatic photosynthetic bacteria.
Ustvarijo te vodne fotosintetične bakterije.
They are called cyanobacteria.
Cianobakterije,
They are green.
ki so zelene.
So people usually call them green algae, but they are not algae, they are bacteria.
Torej, green, what?
Algae.
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 Alge, ok. Ljudje jih imenujejo zelene alge, ampak niso alge, ampak bakterije. Sorry.
Okay, so they are producing food. They are creating organic material in the oceans.
Proizvajajo hrano, torej proizvajajo organsko snov v oceanih.
There is another important group of bacteria that is also producing organic material.
Še ena pomembna skupina bakterij, ki prav tako proizvaja organsko snov.
That are the nitrogen fixing bacteria.
Torej so bakterije, ki urejujejo dušik.
They live in the roots of some specific plants.
Živijo v koreninah nekaterih rastlin.
And what they do is to take the nitrogen from the atmosphere,
In kar počnejo je, da dušik iz atmosfere
turn it into organic molecules,
spremenijo v organske molekule
and put it into the plant.
in potem to dajo v rastline.
The plant uses this organic nitrogen to make its DNA.
In rastlina uporabi ta organski dušik za izdelavo svojega DNA
And its proteins.
in svojih
And
proteinov
it grows.
in svoj rast.
And then when we eat the plant,
In ko mi pojemo rastlino,
we take that nitrogen as well.
potem mi vzamemo ta dušik.
We need a lot of nitrogen.
Mi potrebujemo precej dušika.
There is a lot of nitrogen around us.
Povsod okrog nas je veliko dušika.
Most of the atmosphere is made of nitrogen,
Večina naše atmosfere je iz dušika.
but we cannot take it directly.
Toda mi dušika ne moremo sprejemati neposredno.
When we breathe in, the nitrogen comes to our lungs,
Torej, ko dihamo in pride dušik v naša pljuča,
but then when we breathe out, it comes out again.
ko pa izdihnemo, gre spet ven.
We cannot break the molecule of the two nitrogens together that it's there in the atmosphere.
Mi ne moremo razdružiti dveh molekul dušika, ki sta v zraku.
Plants cannot do it.
Rastline tega ne morejo,
Only bacteria can do it.
samo bakterije to lahko naredijo.
So we owe our nitrogen to little bacteria.
Zato naš dušik, torej dušik imamo zahvaljujoč bakterijam.
But we owe many things to bacteria.
Ampak pravzaprav imamo veliko stvari zahvaljujoč bakterijam.
Let's talk about the bacteria that live inside of us.
Recimo, če spregovorimo o bakterijah, ki živijo v nas,
I told you before that in our human body we have 30 trillion cells, human cells.
povedala sem vam že, da imamo v našem telesu okrog 30 trilijonov celic.
But in your body, mostly in your digestive system, in your intestine,
Večinoma v naših prebavilih
there are also 30 trillion bacteria.
imamo tudi 30 trilijonov bakterij.
We have the same number of bacteria living in us than our own cells.
Imamo torej enako število bakterij, ki živijo v nas, kot je število naših celic.
But they are much smaller than our cells.
Ampak seveda te bakterije so veliko manjše, kot so naše celice.
And the number of different types of bacteria that live inside us
In število različnih vrst bakterij, ki živijo v nas,
is about 1,000 species.
je približno 1000 primerkov.
So this is more than double of the harmful ones.
To je torej več kot enkrat več od tistih škodljivih bakterij.
What do they do inside us?
Kaj te bakterije počnejo v nas?
We don't know all the details,
Ne poznamo vseh podrobnosti,
but scientists have made some experiments with mice.
Ampak znanstveniki so naredili nekaj poskusov z mišmi.
So they took all the bacteria from some little mice with antibiotics.
Zato so torej vzeli vse bakterije iz malih miši z antibiotiki.
And then they put them in a sterile environment so no bacteria could come in.
In jih potem dali v sterilno okolje, tako da tja ni mogla nobena druga bakterija.
And then they were mating and having babies in that non-bacterial environment.
In potem so opazovali to razmnoževanje v tem okolju.
They discovered that these mice that didn't have any bacteria in them were not developing correctly.
In odkrili so, da miši, ki nimajo teh bakterij, se ne razvijajo pravilno.
They had many health problems.
Da imajo številne zdravstvene težave.
Because the bacteria that live inside us, they are helping us in the development of our digestive and immune systems.
Ker bakterije, ki živijo v nas, nam pomagajo pri razvoju našega prebavnega in imunskega sistema.
They also produce some important molecules for us.
Prav tako tudi proizvajajo nekatere pomembne molekule za nas.
So when we end our digestion and we cannot take anything else from the food,
torej, ko mi jemo in ne moremo ničesar dobiti več iz hrane,
then they start their work and they still take some vitamins and some fatty acids from that food that we can use anymore.
Potem bakterije iz te hrane, ki mi več ne moremo uporabiti, torej pridobijo maščobne kisline in pa vitamine.
And they give it to us.
In nam jih dajo.
And they also protect us from the bad bacteria.
In prav tako nas tudi ščitijo pred slabimi bakterijami.
If you have a healthy bacteria community in your digestive system,
torej, če imate v svojem prebavnem sistemu skupnost zdravih bakterij,
they are taking all the space, so if you intake some of the bad ones, they don't have a place to grow.
Ki zavzemajo ves prostor, če pojeste ali s hrano dobite tiste slabe, potem se te ne morejo razmnoževati.
They also are known to influence in some way the brain and the nervous system.
Prav tako tudi vemo, da bakterije na določen način vplivajo na naš živčni sistem in možgane.
And this is a very recent research.
To so zelo nove raziskave.
So we don't know all the results yet.
Zato ne poznamo še vseh rezultatov.
But it looks that bacteria can be related with some mental health problems.
Ampak videti je, kot da so bakterije lahko povezane z nekaterimi težavami na področju duševnega zdravja.
So things like depression and some other problems like this have something to do with the bacteria that are living inside you.
Nekatere od težav, kot na primer depresija, lahko imajo oziroma imajo neko povezavo z bakterijami, ki živijo v nas.
Let's talk a little bit about one of the bacteria that is harmful for us.
Spregovorimo zdaj o eni bakteriji, ki je škodljiva za nas.
Vibrio cholera is the bacteria that causes cholera.
Vibrio cholera je bakterija, ki povzroča kolero.
And this is a very bad disease. You can die.
To je seveda zelo težka bolezen, zaradi katere lahko umrete.
In a few days, if you get cholera and you're not treated.
Če se ne zdravite.
So scientists have studied the natural environment of Vibrio cholera.
Zato so znanstveniki proučevali naravno okolje te bakterije.
They don't live only in humans.
Te bakterije namreč ne živijo samo v ljudeh.
In fact, being in humans is like an accident.
Pravzaprav, če se znajdejo v ljudeh, je to kot po nesreči.
Because their natural habitat is the ocean.
Ker njihovo naravno okolje je ocean.
So they are found in the water, but mostly in the exoskeleton of crustaceans.
Najdemo jih v vodi, največ pa v zunanjem delu, torej okostja oziroma skeletona rakov in podobnih živali.
So crabs or some other of these crustaceans.
Torej skupine živali, ki so iz vrste rakov ali nekih drugih sorodnih vrst.
So people that get infected with cholera,
torej ljudje, ki se okužijo s kolero,
it can be because they drank contaminated water.
Se jim to zgodi zaradi tega, ker so pili vodo kontaminirano.
But in many cases it's because they were eating these things.
Ampak v veliko primerih preprosto zato, ker so jedli te živali,
which we know should not be eaten.
za katere vemo, da jih naj ne bi jedli.
So cholera has a function
Torej, kolera ima svoj smisel, funkcijo,
that has to do with the recycling that we were talking before.
ki je povezana z recikliranjem, o katerem smo prej govorili.
Crustaceans, they are hard on the outside.
Te živali so škodljive navzven.
So when they have to grow, they have to release the outer exoskeleton and they have to grow a new one.
In ko rastejo, morajo ta zunanji svoj oklep zavreči in zgraditi novega.
So at the bottom of the ocean there are many of these skeletons that have been replaced with the new ones.
Zato je na dnu oceana seveda veliko teh oklepov, ki so jih nadomestili nove.
And cholera, Vibrio cholera, is helping to dismantle all these remains and returning the materials to nature, recycling them.
In Vibrio cholera pomaga pri razgradnji vseh teh oklepov, torej pri njihovem recikliranju.
And the same processes, the chemical processes that they use to dismantle these things,
In isti kemični procesi, ki potekajo za razgradnjo teh oklepov,
when they are inside us, this same process is what causes the disease.
v nas, ko pride v nas, povzročajo bolezen.
The diarrhea, the dehydration.
Dehidracijo, drisko.
But that's not the function of Vibrio.
Ampak to ni njihova naloga.
We can say that something accidental.
Torej, to je nekaj naključnega, nekaj, kar se dogaja po nesreči.
They shouldn't be where they are.
To se ne bi smelo dogajati in se ne dogaja tam, kjer so.
Let's talk a little bit about parasites. This is the nasty part of the lecture.
Malo še nekaj o parazitih, to je tisti grdi del tega predavanja.
So some of the parasites that we know, we can easily understand that they were free-living organisms and they changed and now they are parasitic.
Ko gre za parazite, torej zlahka razumemo, da se je zgodila neka sprememba pri njih.
Like mosquitoes.
Kot recimo komarji.
Male mosquitoes, they don't bite.
Moški komarji ne pikajo.
They eat from the plants.
Oni se hranijo z rastlinami.
Only the female mosquitoes bite you and only when they have to reproduce.
Samo samičke, torej komarke, pikajo.
Because they need protein to make their eggs.
Zato, ker potrebujejo beljakovine za proizvodnjo jajčec.
So it's easy to imagine that mosquitoes in the origin, they were not parasitic.
In zato se je zlahka predstavljati, da komarji na začetku stvarjenja niso bili paraziti.
They were getting all what they needed from plants.
Ampak so dobivali vse, kar potrebujejo iz rastlin.
But at some point there was a change in diet.
Ampak v nekem trenutku je prišlo do spremembe v prehrani.
Not too difficult to imagine that.
Ni si težko tega zamisliti.
But these things here,
Toda te stvari tukaj,
the tapeworms,
ti črvi,
they cannot live outside the body.
Ne morejo živeti znotraj telesa.
Because they don't have any internal organs.
Zunaj telesa se pravi, trakulja, ok.
So they don't have any internal organs.
Nimajo notranjih organov.
They don't have a mouth, they cannot eat.
Nimajo ust, ne morejo jesti.
They have to live inside the digestive system.
Torej morajo živeti znotraj prebavnega sistema,
where everything is already digested.
Kjer je vse že prebavljeno.
So they take the nutrients directly and the only thing that they do is to produce eggs and eggs.
In tako neposredno jemljajo hranilne snovi in samo proizvajajo jajčice.
So it's difficult to imagine how these things were before free living and they adapted to this type of life cycle.
Težko si je predstavljati, kako je to izgledalo in delovalo nekoč in kako je prišlo do spremembe.
But by the way, the life cycles of these things is very complex.
Ampak življenjski cikel njihov je zelo kompleksen.
They usually go through different hosts.
Običajno gredo od gostitelja do gostitelja.
So they have a phase in the cows or the pigs.
Imajo svojo fazo v kravah ali v svinjah.
They live in the muscle.
Živijo v mišicah.
And then they go to humans when you eat the meat of these things.
In potem pridejo do ljudi, če jeste meso teh živali.
So, How can we explain a complex life cycle that seems designed to go through different hosts?
Kako lahko pojasnimo ta kompleksni življenjski cikel, ki je načrtovan tako, da gre skozi različne gostitelje?
An organism that seems designed to be in the intestine of another being.
In to pri organizmu, za katerega je videti, da je načrtovan tako, da živi znotraj drugega organizma.
So we don't have all the answers, I told you.
Kot sem rekla, nimamo vseh odgovorov.
But is it possible that they were designed to be where they are?
Ampak ali je možno, da je bilo načrtovano, da so tam, kjer so?
That they were symbionts, they were organisms that lived together with some other organisms.
In da je šlo za simbiozo, torej za organizme, ki živijo skupaj z drugimi organizmi.
They were helping each other in some way.
Ki so si med seboj pomagali.
So creationists have proposed some hypotheses about this idea.
Torej, kreacionisti so dali nekaj predlogov glede teh idej.
It sounds unpleasant to us.
Nam to seveda vse zveni zelo neprijetno.
But we have 30 trillion of bacteria.
Ampak imamo 30 trilijonov bakterij.
So maybe having some few worms, if they are not harming us, wouldn't be really that bad.
Ampak če imamo recimo nekaj takšnih biti, mogoče ni to tako slabo.
If they were helping for something.
Če so koristna za nekaj.
Okay, so how could they help?
Kako lahko pomaga?
This is one of the ideas that is being researched.
To je ena od idej, ki se raziskuje.
It's not demonstrated yet, but
ni še demonstrirana.
Some creationists are working on this.
Nekateri kreacionisti delajo na tem.
So we know that bacteria share their genes with one another.
Mi vemo, da bakterije delijo svoje gene druga z drugo.
So maybe this could also happen with some larger organisms like these parasites.
Mogoče se to lahko dogaja tudi pri nekaterih večjih organizmih, kot so ti paraziti.
That they could share some of their genetic information with their hosts.
Da lahko delijo del svoje genetske informacije z gostiteljem.
So they could give some of their genes to the host, so the host could make something that it couldn't before.
Zato, da lahko del svojih genov dajo gostitelju in da lahko gostitelj naredi, proizvede nekaj, česar prej ni mogel.
This is called horizontal gene transfer.
In to se imenuje horizontalni prenos genov.
So this parasite that goes from the cow to the human and they are living in the same place, in the same environment.
Torej ta parazit, ki gre od krave do človeka, ki živita v istem okolju,
could give the same information, the genetic information to the cow and to the human.
Lahko daje isto genetsko informacijo kravi in človeku.
And this information could maybe be useful for adapting to a specific environment.
In ta informacija je lahko koristna za prilagajanje na določeno okolje.
Because if you live in the same place, maybe there's something that you need to live in that specific place.
Ker če živite na istem prostoru, mogoče potrebujete nekaj za življenje v teh okoliščinah.
And these organisms that are going through different hosts could maybe help with that.
In ti organizmi, ki gredo od gostitelja do gostitelja, lahko morda pri tem pomagajo.
This is just being researched right now.
To je nekaj, kar se sedaj raziskuje.
But what we do know
Ampak tisto, kar vemo,
is that most parasites, intestinal parasites, are not that bad.
Je, da večina parazitov v naših prebavilih ni tako slabih.
In fact, it seems that they were good.
Pravzaprav je videti, da so dobri.
Some decades ago, or at least
nekaj desetletij nazaj,
and mostly some centuries ago,
in nekaj stoletij nazaj,
every human had intestinal parasites.
Je vsak človek imel prebavne parazite.
But now we live in these conditions or a lot of hygiene and medical and a lot of like antiparasitics and all of that, so we don't have many internal parasites.
Zdaj pa zaradi načina življenja in okoliščin, v katerih smo, nimamo teh parazitov.
And this is causing problems.
In to povzroča težave.
There is research that suggests that there is a relationship between not having parasites
Obstaja
and
raziskava,
autoimmune diseases.
Ki pravi, da obstaja povezava med tem, da nimate parazitov in avtoimunimi boleznimi.
We are having more and more autoimmune diseases
imamo vse več in več avtoimunih bolezni,
as we don't have any parasites inside us.
zato ker v nas nimamo parazitov.
And it makes sense.
Mogoče ni
If
smiselno,
we were designed to have some symbiotic organisms in us,
ampak če smo bili ustvarjeni tako, da bi imeli v sebi določene simbiotske organizme,
like the bacteria, but also some of these parasites,
tako kot bakterije, ampak tudi nekateri od teh parazitov,
we needed a good immune system to keep them in check, in control.
smo potrebovali ali potrebujemo dober imunski sistem, da jih imamo pod nadzorom.
But now that we don't have them,
Ampak zdaj, ko jih nimamo,
our immune system has gone crazy.
se naš imunski sistem ne razvija dobro
And it's attacking our own body.
in napada naše telo.
So this article, it's in Spanish, but it's saying
Ta članek sicer je v španščini pravi,
that they are using worms and some molecules from the worms
da uporabljajo molekule iz določenih čarov, iz parazitov,
so the animal itself or something from the animal
torej ali same živali ali nekaj z nje,
to treat autoimmune diseases.
da s tem zdravijo avtoimune bolezni.
So maybe they were not that bad.
Mogoče torej paraziti niso bili tako zelo slabi,
Just think a little bit about that.
torej nekaj za razmišljati.
Let's go to the predators.
Gremo še k plenilcem.
Same thing as we said before.
Ista stvar, kot smo rekli
It
prej.
is easy to imagine for some of the predators that they were non-predators before.
Zlahka si je predstavljati za nekatere od plenilcev, da nekoč niso bili plenilci.
Bears, for example.
Recimo medvede.
They eat everything.
Medvedi je vse.
They can eat from plants, they eat berries, they eat meat as well.
Lahko jedo jagodičeve, rastline, meso.
So maybe at the beginning they were herbivorous and then they changed a little bit towards more carnivorous diet.
In na začetku so bili rastlinojedi in potem prešli na mesojedo prehrano.
And within the bear family,
In znotraj družine medvedov
we have examples of bears that are fully carnivorous, like the polar bear,
imamo medvede, ki so samo mesojedi, recimo polarni medvedi,
but we have some that are fully herbivorous, like the panda bear.
ampak imamo tudi tiste, ki so samo rastlinojedi, torej kot so pande recimo.
So, creationists believe that within the same family, like the bear family,
Stvarjenje nam pojasnjuje, da znotraj družine medvedov
not all these different bears were created by God in the beginning.
Niso bili vsi ti različni medvedi ustvarjeni na začetku strani Boga,
Not all these bears were there in Noah's ark during the flood.
da niso bili vsi v Noetovi barki na začetku.
Probably God created one type of bear,
Verjetno je Bog ustvaril vrsto medvedov, eno vrsto.
and in the DNA of that couple of bears or the type of bear,
In v DNA te vrste medvedov
he put enough genetic information to adapt to the environments that would appear after the flood.
dal zapisati dovolj genetske informacije, ki je omogočala prilagoditev na nove okoliščine po potopu.
So bears diversified after the flood,
Torej, medvedi se razmnožujejo, postajajo raznoliki po potopu
adapted to different environments.
in prilagojeni na različna okolja.
So in the North Pole, where there is no plants,
Na severnem polu, kjer ni rastlin,
then they had to eat meat,
jedo meso
and they were prepared for that.
in so pripravljeni na to.
We have more examples in the same lines.
Imamo več takšnih podobnih primerov.
So like the monitor lizards,
Tako kot ti veliki kuščari,
this is
varani,
the Komodo dragon.
komodski zmaj. No?
So these things are 2 meters long.
Ta bitja so 2 metra dolga,
They're carnivorous and very aggressive.
zelo agresivna bitja.
They can eat a goat or a small deer.
Lahko pojedo kozo ali majhnega jelena,
But in the same family and actually in the same genus,
ampak v isti družini, v isti vrsti,
so in the Baranus genus,
v vrsti Varanus.
We have many other lizards very close, genetically related with the Komodo dragon.
Imamo veliko kuščarjev, ki so sorodniki, torej tega komodskega zmaja.
And some of them are like this big
Nekateri so tako veliki
and are vegetarian
in so vegetarijanci
and live in trees.
in živijo na drevesih.
So we see a lot of variation, adaptation from the same type of animal.
Tako da vidimo veliko variacij in prilagoditev strani iste vrste živali.
Some of them adapted to eat more carnivorous, some adapted to eat more herbivorous.
Nekateri so se prilagodili, da jedo več mesne prehrane, drugi več rastlinske.
But in nature we also find what I call killing machines.
Ampak v naravi najdemo tudi bitja, ki jih imenujemo stroji za ubijanje.
There are some predators that have specific structures that seem designed to kill.
Gre za plenilce, katerih struktura je takšna, kot da bi bila načrtovana za ubijanje.
Not all snakes, but some snakes have these fangs.
Ne vse kače, ampak nekatere od njih imajo te zobe,
They're hollow inside and connected to the venom
ki
gland.
so znotraj votli in povezani s trupnicami,
They're foldable.
ki se lahko napolnijo
So
in zložijo.
the system, the inoculation system of the venom of some snakes, it's really complex.
In ta sistem izločanja strupa v nekaterih kačah je zelo kompleksen.
Doesn't look that is just a degeneration or an adaptation.
Ni videti, kot da bi šlo samo za nekakšno degeneracijo ali adaptacijo, torej prilagoditev.
So it seems that it had to be in the DNA to get to something so sophisticated.
Torej videti je, kot da mora biti v DNA, zato da je prišlo do nečesa tako sofisticiranega.
We could say the same for the sting systems of jellyfish.
Lahko bi enako ali pa nekaj podobnega rekli tudi za sistem, s katerim nas meduze pičijo.
Or the teeth rows of a shark
Ali pa za zobe pri morskih pseh,
that are falling down and being replaced constantly.
ki odpadajo in se neprestano obnavljajo.
So what do we do with that?
Kaj torej naj naredimo s tem?
Okay, now I'm going to show you an illustration
Zdaj vam bom pokazala eno ilustracijo,
that helped me to figure out this.
ki mi je pomagala razumeti to.
Because I told you this morning, I'm an animal lover.
Ker kot sem vam povedala danes dopoldan, sem ljubiteljica živali.
So this predatory thing has been always difficult for me.
In zato ta tema o predatorjih, o plenilcih je bila zame vedno težka.
But I want to compare it with something
Ampak rada bi jo primerjala z nečim,
just for us to think about it.
o čemer lahko razmišljam.
No, not yet, not that yet. I forgot something here I have to pick up.
Nekaj sem pozabila, samo da vzamem.
Okay. And I'm going to decide. Okay, so I think we will need to translate this part. So you can translate until I start.
Okay, prevedli bomo ta del, potrebno bo.
I fly a lot in planes.
Veliko potujem z letali.
There is something that happens every time that you go into a plane.
In vsakič, ko greste v letalo, se zgodi nekaj.
So I'm going to perform it for you.
Jaz bom to odigrala za vas.
And I'm going to do it in English.
Jaz bom to naredila v angleščini.
But many times it happens in English in planes, so you have to go with it.
In ker se to dogaja v angleščini, v letalih, boste morali preživeti ta angleški del.
Okay, so.
So I don't need to translate.
Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you please direct your attention to me as we review the emergency procedures. Fasten your seat belt by placing the metal fitting into the buckle and adjust the strap. To release, lift the faceplate of the buckle. There are 6 emergency exits in this aircraft, 2 at the front, 2 at the middle, over the wings, and 2 at the back. Should the cabin experience sudden pressure loss, oxygen mask will drop from above your seats. Place the mask over your nose and mouth like this. Put the strap around your head and tighten it. Make sure that your own mask is on first before helping others. In the unlikely event of an emergency landing and evacuation, leave your all carry-on items behind. A life vest is located under your seat. To wear it, slip it over your head, wrap the straps around your waist, and tighten. Inflate the vest by pulling the red tab, and the vest can also be inflated blowing into the red tube, and it's equipped with a water activator locator light that's in here. It is important that you do not inflate your life vest until after exiting the aircraft. Okay. I know what you're thinking.
Vem, kaj mislite.
No, I don't steal this from the plane.
Ne, nisem tega ukradla iz letala.
I bought it online.
Kupila sem to na spletu.
And also the second question.
In drugo vprašanje.
What this has to do with predation?
Kaj ima to s predatorji?
Okay, it has to do with it.
Ima nekaj skupnega.
Okay, so there are many things in a plane.
Veliko stvari v letalu.
Many features in a plane.
Veliko različnih lastnosti.
When the aeronautic engineer designed the plane,
ko inženirji načrtujejo letalo,
his or her goal was for you to have a safe flight,
je njihov cilj seveda ta, da imate varen let.
To get safely to your destination,
da varno pridete na svoj cilj,
to be comfortable,
da vam je udobno,
to have a good flight,
da imate dober let,
and also that it's the goal of the pilot and all the cabin crew.
In seveda je to ta isti cilj ima tudi pilot in kabinsko osebje.
So there are many things in the plane with that are there for that objective.
Torej, na letalu je veliko stvari, ki so tam točno s tem namenom.
So you have your seats,
imate svoj sedež,
and you get food,
dobite hrano,
and you have your little lamp in case you want to read
imate
there.
svojo malo lučko, če želite brati.
And yeah, what you want is to get to your destination with all your luggage.
In seveda, če želite priti na svoj cilj z vso svojo prtljago,
to enjoy the flight and also to enjoy vacation or whatever you're going to do.
In pri tem uživati vaš polet in tudi na počitnicah ali kamorkoli pač greste.
There are many things in a plane that you don't want to use ever.
Na letalu je veliko stvari, ki si jih ne želite nikoli uporabiti.
But they are there.
Ampak so tam.
They are there in case of an emergency.
So tam v primeru, ko gre za nek nepredviden dogodek.
Because the engineer knew that accidents can happen.
Ker inženir je vedel, da se nesreče lahko zgodijo.
And in case of an accident, you are going to need them.
In v primeru nesreče boste to potrebovali.
And in case of an accident, then the entire goal changes.
In v primeru nesreče se celoten cilj spremeni.
If you are in an emergency, then
če se znajdete v takšnih nujni
it's
situaciji,
not about pleasure anymore.
takrat ne gre več za užitek,
It's about survival.
takrat gre za preživetje.
Your carry-on luggage doesn't matter.
Vaša prtljaga, ki ste jo prinesli s seboj na letalo, ni več pomembna.
Your laptop doesn't matter.
Vaš računalnik tudi ne.
Even your wallet doesn't matter
Tudi
anymore.
vaša denarnica ni več pomembna.
You have to leave everything behind.
Preprosto morate vse pustiti za sabo.
You have to survive
Morate preživeti
until you are rescued.
in biti rešeni.
This is the type of world that we are living in today.
To je svet, v katerem živimo danes.
This is not the ideal, original plan A that God had for the world.
To ni originalni, idealni načrt A, ki ga je Bog imel za naš planet.
We are in an emergency situation.
Smo v neki nepredvideni situaciji.
And we know that God had a plan.
Vemo, da je Bog imel načrt,
Before even creating the world,
preden je ustvaril svet,
He had all the plan of salvation mapped out.
je imel načrtovan celot načrt zveličanja.
But for that to happen, we had to survive until Jesus came.
Ampak, da bi se to zgodilo, da bi se ta uresničil, smo morali preživeti do Jezusovega prihoda.
And not only us, but the rest of nature.
In ne samo mi, ampak vse ostalo stvarstvo.
And when sin entered the world,
In ko je greh vstopil v naš svet,
humans became selfish,
so ljudje postali sebični
but the rest of nature became selfish as well.
in preostanek narave je ravno tako postal sebičen.
Not just the predators.
Ne samo plenilci.
All the animals became selfish.
Vse živali so postale sebične.
The herbivores also became selfish.
Tudi rastlinojede živali so postale sebične.
And an ecosystem without predators
In ekosistem brez plenilcev
in our sinful world doesn't work.
v našem grešnem svetu ne deluje.
And I'm going to show you an example.
Pokazala vam bom primer.
This happened in Yellowstone National Park
To se je zgodilo v Yellowstonskem nacionalnem parku,
when the main predators were taken out from the system.
ko so iz sistema odvzeli glavne plenilce.
In Yellowstone used to be wolves,
V Yellowstonu so bili volkovi,
but in the 1930s all the wolves were killed
ampak tam okrog leta 1930 so vse volkove pobili.
because they were killing the farm animals, and
Zato,
things
ker
like
so oni
that.
pobijali živali.
So they were hunted and removed.
Preprosto so jih z lovom odstranili.
Then the elks that lived there,
Zato so se jeleni, losi, ki so tam živeli, razmnožili
they took over.
in prevzeli.
They started reproducing like crazy.
Razmnoževali so se kot nori,
They ate everything,
pojedli so vse,
the flowers, the grass, the shrubs, the trees.
rastlino, travo, listje na drevesih, drevesa.
So the rest of the animals didn't have food.
Zato ostale živali niso imele hrane.
No little birds because there were no seeds.
Niti ne male ptice, ker ni bilo semen,
No butterflies because there were no flowers.
ni bilo metuljev, ker ni bilo rož.
They spent a lot of time inside the river
In veliko časa so te živali preživele v rekah,
because they didn't fear anything.
ker se niso bale
So
ničesar.
they destroyed the river ecosystem.
Zato so uničile tudi ekosistem v rekah,
The beavers disappeared
izginili so bobri
and the biodiversity of the system was very reduced.
in raznolikost tega ekosistema je bila zelo zmanjšana.
In the 1990s,
V 90-ih letih prejšnjega stoletja
the government decided to put the wolves back in the system
se je vlada odločila volkove znova uvesti nazaj v ta sistem,
to reintroduce some wolves in there.
torej jih znova naseliti tja.
So they released, I think, 14 wolves, something like
Mislim,
that.
da so jih naselili 14.
And in a few years, the biodiversity increased a lot.
In v nekaj letih se je ta biološka raznolikost povečala, izjemno.
I'm going to show you a video
Pokazala vam bom video,
showing some of these animals in Yellowstone.
ki kaže nekatere od teh živali v Yellowstonu.
These are the elks.
To je ta jelenjad,
They're herbivores, but they were causing many animals to die of starvation.
ki je povzročala, da so številne živali umrle zaradi lakote.
The beavers disappeared, the birds, the butterflies.
Bobri so izginili, ptiči, metulji.
When the wolves were reintroduced,
Ko so znova uvedli volkove,
everything changed.
se je vse spremenilo.
The beavers came back
Vrnili so se bobri,
because now the elves could not be in the river
zato ker zdaj ti jeleni niso mogli biti več v
because they
vodi,
are vulnerable there.
ker so tam ranljivi.
So even the river changed its path.
Je tudi reka spremenila svoj tok.
These are ugly visions. I don't like to see wolves killing elks,
Seveda ti prizori mi niso všeč, ko vidim volkove, ki ubijajo živali,
but it's actually good for the ecosystem.
ampak drži, da je to dobro za ekosistem.
Now the birds came back,
Vrnile so se ptice,
many other animals came back,
številne druge živali
and as I was saying, the biodiversity increased
in kot
again.
sem rekla, se je ta biološka raznolikost povečala.
Okay, so summary. Let's finish this video. Is short. Like you can see all the different animals that came back because of the wolves.
Kot lahko vidite, so različne živali vrnile zaradi volkov.
The river now is clean.
Reka je zdaj čista,
Have the beavers back, the otters back.
nazaj so prišli bobri.
Okay, so let's summarize.
Povzamem.
What are some of the creationist responses to the existence of pathogens, parasites and predators?
Kakšni so odgovori kreacionistov na obstoj patogenov, parazitov in pa plenilcev?
First, we have the displacement theory.
Najprej imamo to teorijo razselitve ali postavitve na napačne okoliščine,
That applies to bacteria.
ki se nanaša na bakterije.
So bacteria are harmful because they are in a place that they shouldn't be.
Torej, bakterije so škodljive, ker so tam, kjer ne bi smele biti.
Bacteria, they don't have a brain.
Bakterije nimajo možganov
What they do is just to reproduce.
in kar delajo samo, da se razmnožujejo.
Bacteria now, they are in... Okay, when we were created,
Ko smo bili ustvarjeni,
we had a perfect immune system.
smo imeli popoln imunski sistem.
We were created with an immune system.
Bili smo ustvarjeni z imunskim sistemom.
And our immune system was keeping things like bacteria out of, the bad bacteria out of our body.
In naš imunski sistem seveda drži slabe bakterije zunaj našega organizma.
But now our immune system is not as good as
Ampak
it should be.
zdaj naš imunski sistem ni tako dober, kot bi naj bil.
And also we are eating things that we shouldn't.
Jemo stvari, ki jih naj ne bi jedli.
And bacteria are like misplaced. They end up in places they
In
shouldn't be.
bakterije živijo tam, kjer naj ne bi živele.
Both for bacteria and for some of the parasites, we could say that they are the result of post-syn degeneration of free living organisms.
Tako za bakterije kot za nekatere parazite lahko rečemo, da so degenerirana oblika prosto živečih organizmov po grehu,
That, like the mosquitoes,
kot komarji recimo.
but they also could be the post-syn degeneration of symbiotic animals, organisms.
Ampak prav tako lahko tudi gre za degeneracijo simbiotičnih organizmov, ravno tako po grehu.
Maybe we had some, they were not parasites, some worms inside us.
Morda torej smo imeli določene črve znotraj sebe, znotraj nas,
And they were helping us, they were good for us,
ki so bili dobri za nas, niso nam škodili,
but then they became selfish.
ampak potem so postali sebični
And they started harming us without giving anything in return.
in so nam začeli škoditi, ne da bi nam karkoli vračali.
Some of the things that we are seeing, like predation,
Nekatere od stvari, ki jih vidimo, kot so recimo plenilci,
could be just adaptation by original genetic flexibility.
lahko gre preprosto za prilagoditev z originalno, torej izvorno genetsko fleksibilnostjo, prilagodljivostjo.
Like the bears, they adapted to different environments, to different types of food,
Kot pri medvedih, ki so se prilagodili na različna okolja, različne vrste hrane,
because God had already equipped them with that possibility of
ker
adaptation.
jih je Bog že obdaril z to zmožnostjo prilagoditve.
And then the last idea is that maybe God already pre-programmed some features
In zadnja ideja je ta, da je Bog predprogramiral nekatere lastnosti
in predators to manifest after the fall,
v predatorje, ki so se potem izrazile po padcu v greh,
because the balance of ecosystems after sin was going to be completely different than from before.
ker bo ravnovesje v ekosistemih po grehu povsem drugačno kot pred padcem v greh.
Because when all organisms become selfish,
Ker ko vsi organizmi postanejo sebični,
the selfishness of ones can keep in check the selfishness of others.
lahko sebičnost enega omejuje sebičnost drugega.
So you need wolves controlling the selfishness of the others.
Zato potrebujete sebične volkove, ki kontrolirajo sebično jelenjak.
I want to finish with the last, we could call it experiment, but it's not like the ones we saw before,
Zaključili bomo z zadnjim poskusom, bi lahko rekli.
but something in we all participate,
Nekaj, v čemer bomo sodelovali vsi.
and it has to do with worldviews.
In ima zvezo s svetonazorem, s pogledom na svet.
When we look to nature,
Ko gledamo naravo,
what we see depends on the lenses we are looking through.
je to, kar vidimo, odvisno od leč zornega kota, s katerim gledamo.
So when we look at nature, we see things that different than what Darwin saw or Stephen Fry saw in nature.
Ko gledamo naravo, vidimo drugačne stvari od tega, kar je videl Darwin ali Stephen Fry,
Because we have the Bible to guide our view of nature.
ker naš pogled na naravo vodi svetopismo.
So we are going to do an exercise.
Naredili bomo eno vajo.
We are going to give each of you one of these glasses.
Vsakemu od vas bomo dali ena ta očala.
These are all 3D glasses.
To so 3D očala.
And when you have them on,
In ko si jih boste nadeli,
you will see that what it looks like a blurry picture, like the one you have here,
in boste videli, da to, kar je videti kot zamegljena slika, ki jo vidite tukaj,
it has depth in it.
ima v sebi globino.
So when you have the correct glasses on,
Ko boste
You can
si
start
nadeli
distributing
ta
them.
očala,
you will see that the image comes sharp to your eyes.
boste videli, da podoba, da slika postane ostra v vaših očeh.
When we look to nature through the Bible glasses,
Ko gledamo na naravo skozi očala Svetega pisma,
that mixture of features, that confusion that we were talking this morning about,
potem mešanica različnih stvari in zmede, o kateri smo govorili danes dopoldan,
starts to make sense, start to get sharper.
začne postajati smiselna in bolj ostra.
So I'm going to show you 3 pictures.
Pokazala vam bom 3 slike,
This is the first one,
to je prva.
and when we all have our glasses,
In ko bomo vsi imeli svoja očala,
I will show you 2 more.
vam bom pokazala še 2.
Do you see the depth in the picture?
Ali vidite zdaj v sliki globino?
Okay, good.
Ok, super.
Let's wait until everyone has
Torej imamo vsi
glasses.
očala.
Thank you, the helpers.
Hvala vsem mojim pomočnikom.
Okay, do all of you sit?
Ok,
Let's go for the next one.
gremo na naslednjo sliko.
Okay? Look at this.
Poglejte to.
In this one you can see that the earth is not flat. Okay, it's round.
Tu vidite, da zemlja ni ravna, naj okrogla.
And now the last one, that it's a topic for another time.
In zdaj še ena slika, ki je tema za naslednjič.
Oh, you can take one. Yeah, sure. Sorry. Okay, enjoy the dinosaur. And I'm going to ask for the help of 4 people who can read English. So I need 4 people who can read
rabim
English.
4 ljudi, ki lahko berejo angleško.
And I would like them to come here to help me.
Naj pridejo sem in mi pomagajo, torej 4 ljudi, ki berejo angleško.
Okay. So we have 1, 2 more coming.
Dva,
We need 1 more.
Še enega rabimo.
One more person
Še ena
to
oseba.
this side. Okay, come here. It's fine. Okay, perfect. Or you can stay and maybe you can help. Yeah, don't bring your glasses. I'm going to give you new ones. Okay.
Dala vam bom
So,
očala.
I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to give you 2 these ones.
Vi dva dobite.
And you these ones.
Vi dva te.
Okay. And now I'm going to show you. You can come here behind me.
Lahko pridete sem za mene.
I'm going to show you a text.
Pokazala
And I
vam
want
bom
you to read
besedilo.
it with the glasses on.
In rada bi, da ga preberete z očali.
Read it to yourself for now.
Najprej ga preberite sebi.
Okay. Going to give you some time. And for the rest of the audience, I'm going to put it on screen.
Ostali del občinstva bo to videl na
And to read it, you have to close one eye and then the other eye.
In da bi ga brali, morate najprej zapreti eno oko, potem pa drugega zapreti. Ja.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the people with the blue glasses to tell us what this text is saying.
Torej, ljudje z modrimi očali,
What is it
naj
about?
nam povejo, kaj govori to besedilo.
You can read a little bit, you don't have to read everything, or just explain what it's about. Okay, it's okay.
Lahko ta
It's a long
mikrofon?
text.
Nisem v 3D, pa me ne vidijo.
Just read it, it's okay.
Thus, from the war of nature, from famine and death, the most exalted object which we are capable of conceiving, namely the production of the higher animals, directly follows. There is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers having been originally breathed into a few forms or into one. And that whilst this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been and are being evolved. The origin of species.
Okay, can explain, any of you can explain a little bit in Slovenian what is this about? I can. Or, okay, you can explain, or maybe you need the blue glasses to see this. You don't have to read everything, just a little bit.
Torej, to besedilo, modro, govori o tem, kako iz vojne v naravi, iz lakote in smrti prihaja do nastanka najvišjih oblik življenja oziroma živali in da je veličina v tem pogledu na življenje, ko opazujemo torej te različne oblike, ki se združujejo oziroma živijo kot eno v svetu in se razvijajo. Besedilo je težko.
Okay, now we are going to see what you are reading here.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and God said, "Let there be light. Let there be a wall between the waters. Let there be water degraded to one place, and the land produced vegetation."
Let there be light in the skies. Let the water with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth. Let the land produce living creatures. And it was so. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image." So God created mankind in his own image. God saw all
Okay, you can summarize that.
Ja, torej iz prve Mojzesove, v začetku je Bog ustvaril nebo in zemljo, zemlja je bila pusta in prazna in tema se je razprostirala nad globinami. Bog je rekel, bodi svetloba in nastala je svetloba. Potem imamo stvarjenje vode in kopnega in na koncu stvarjenje človeka. Bog je rekel, naredimo človeka po svoji podobi, kot svojo podobnost gospoduje naj ribam in tako naprej vse kar je.
Okay, so how is this possible? We
Kako
have only one text
je to možno? Imamo samo eno besedilo
and so many different readings.
in različna branja.
We had on one side
Na eni strani imamo
the last paragraph of the Origin of Species,
zadnji del iz izvora vrst, torej Darwinove knjige,
the final conclusion of Darwin about the beauty and the grandeur of natural selection and evolution.
končni sklep Darwina o lepoti in veličastnosti naravne selekcije.
And on the other side, we
In
had Genesis 1,
In na
creation,
drugi strani imamo prvo Mojzesovo 1, torej stvarjenje.
in the same place, one on top of the other.
Na istem listu, eno nad drugim.
Both of them are here.
Oboje je tukaj.
But you need to have like both of this confusing message is here.
Obe te sporočili imate tukaj pred
And
sabo.
it depends which glasses you have on,
In odvisno od tega, katera očala nosite,
what are you reading there?
je to, kar berete.
What are you seeing in nature
To, kar vidite v naravi,
depends on what glasses you have on.
je odvisno od tega, kakšno očala ste si nadeli.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to try to convince the other team of what you are seeing in the image, and I'm going to put it back.
Torej prosila vas bom, da prepričate druga dva o tem, kar vi vidite na tej sliki.
So how would you convince them that what is here is Genesis 1?
Da je to, kar je tu napisano, res prva Mojzesova 1, recimo.
How would you help them to read creation in here, in nature?
Kako bi jim pomagali, da preberejo v naravi o stvarjenju?
What would you tell them?
Kaj bi jim rekli?
Use the micro.
Yeah, I will do this.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, thank you. You can go back to your seats. Can I get the glasses back? Thank you very much.
Hvala lepa.
So, sometimes we want to convince people of creation
Včasih želimo ljudi prepričati o stvarjenju,
when they don't believe in God or the Bible.
ko pa ne verujejo v Boga ali svetopismo.
That is impossible.
In to je nemogoče.
If someone does not believe in God,
Če
he's
nekdo
not
ne
going to
veruje v
believe in
Boga,
creation.
ne bo verjel v stvarjenje.
So, we have to bring people closer to God first.
Zato moramo ljudi najprej pripeljati bliže k Bogu.
We have to help them change their view,
Pomagati jim spremeniti njihov pogled,
put on the correct glasses
jim nadeti pravo očalo,
so they can see what we see.
da lahko vidijo, kar vidimo mi.
I have a fun picture here.
Tukaj na slika.
This is from one of my students in Friedensau.
To je eden od mojih študentov na Friedensau.
We did this activity in class,
Naredili smo to v razredu.
and then we went to the Natural History Museum in Berlin,
Potem smo šli v muzej naravne zgodovine.
and he decided to give Darwin a new pair of glasses.
On se je odločil, da bo Darwinu dal novo očalo.
So, our task is to give testimony,
Naša naloga je podati pričevanje,
to show God's love,
pokazati Božjo ljubezen.
and not to like hit people in the head with creation or
Ne
the
udarjati
Bible.
ljudi
Or
po glavi s stvarjenjem in s poročilom o stvarjenju.
we have a great message to share.
Imamo veličastno sporočilo, ki ga lahko podelimo.
We are living in an emergency situation,
Živimo v enih nujnih situacij, nepredvidenih razmerah,
but this is temporary.
ampak to je začasno.
We know the end of this movie.
Mi poznamo konec tega filma.
The battle is won,
Bitka je dobljena
and this is going to end soon.
in kmalu se bo končala.
And we have many Bible verses that help us to understand that.
Imamo veliko besedil v Svetem pismu, ki nam to pomaga razumeti.
So I want to finish with them.
Zato bi rada končala s nekaterimi od njih.
Diseases, predation, pain, parasites.
To je nekaj, kar navdihuje.
All of this is going to finish soon.
In dejstvo je, da se bo vse to kmalu končalo.
So let's go to Revelation 21.
Gremo v Razodetje 21.
Jesus say, listen, I'm coming soon.
Jezus pravi, poslušajte, pridem kmalu.
He says he's going to wipe away all tears from our eyes.
Obrisal bo vse solze z naših oči.
That there will be no more death.
Ne bo več smrti.
No more predation.
Nič več plenilcev.
No more grief, crying or pain.
Nič več žalovanja ali bolečine.
Because he is making all things new.
Zato, ker on vse dela novo.
And we will still have wolves.
Še vedno bomo imeli volkove,
But they will be with sheep together,
ki pa bodo skupaj z ovcami bivali.
living in peace.
Živeli v miru.
And the leopards will be with the goats,
In leopardi bodo s kozliči
and with the baboons.
in z opicami.
They won't kill each other.
Družili se bodo.
We'll have the calves with the lions and the cows with the bears.
Krave z levi in medvedi.
And we will go back to the original plan where lions will eat from plants.
In vrnili se bomo nazaj na začetek, kjer bodo levi jedli rastline.
We will even have snakes. We'll even have snakes.
Imeli bomo celo kače.
But babies will be able to play with them, no danger.
Ampak celo otroci se bodo lahko igrali z njimi brez nevarnosti.
And we don't know what will happen with the fangs of the snake.
Ne vemo, kaj se bo zgodilo s temi strupniki.
Maybe they won't have them anymore. They will be locked. The information for them will be locked.
Mogoče bodo informacije za njih zaklenjene.
Maybe they will use them for something else, like
Mogoče jih bodo uporabljali za kaj drugega.
eating fruits, you know.
Za uživanje sadja.
There is another verse, I don't have it here, but I like it a lot,
Je še eno besedilo, ki ga nimam tukaj, mi zelo všeč.
that says that the things that God has prepared for us, we cannot even imagine them.
In pravi tako, da stvari, ki jih je Bog pripravil za nas, ne moremo niti predstavljati.
So this is what we have in front of us.
In to je pred nami.
Beauty, peace, love, perfection again.
Lepota, mir, ljubezen, popolnost.
And this is the message that people need.
In to je sporočilo, ki ga ljudje potrebujejo.
So let's do our job
Zato opravimo svoje delo,
so Jesus can come back
da
soon.
Jezus kmalu pride.
Amen. Yeah, sure.